There he is. Officer. That's the man who broke into my house. Arrest him. The voice, a shrill and panicked shriek, sliced through the quiet suburban air of Crestwood Heights, Austin, Texas. Marcus Wright just stood there, his suitcase handle clenched in his fist, staring at the flashing red and blue lights painting stripes across the pristine glass and steel facade of his own home. A cybersecurity consultant, he had just returned 2 weeks early from a major project in Tokyo. The woman pointing at him from his front porch, someone he recognized as Evelyn Harper, the overzealous HOA president, had apparently moved in while he was gone. She was wearing his late wife's silk robe. The absurdity of it was staggering. She called the cops on him for trespassing on his own property while she was the one living there. But little did she know, his early return wasn't a coincidence. And the phone he was holding up wasn't just for taking vacation photos. She had just walked into the most elaborate, technologically documented trap of her life. It all started 6 months earlier when Marcus bought what he considered his dream home. After years of grinding, living in cramped city apartments while building his consultancy, he finally had the means to purchase a slice of tranquility. It was a large, modern structure of glass and steel, nestled in the wealthy Crestwood Heights subdivision that promised peace and quiet. The kind of place with more lawn care services per capita than a professional golf course. He traveled constantly for work, his clients international corporations with complex digital security needs. So his home was his sanctuary, his fortress of solitude. The one fly in the ointment, the one he hadn't properly accounted for, was the Homeowners Association and its president, Evelyn Harper. His first encounter with Evelyn was less than a week after he moved in. She appeared on his doorstep, a clipboard clutched to her chest like a holy tablet. She was a woman in her late 50s who tried desperately to look 40, with unnaturally blonde hair pulled into a severe ponytail and a wardrobe of expensive but slightly ill-fitting resort wear. She drove a 10-year-old Mercedes sedan that she kept immaculately polished, a perfect metaphor for her entire existence, projecting a status she didn't quite have. She informed him, with a smile that never reached her cold eyes, that his choice of mailbox, a sleek, minimalist black steel design that matched the house, was non-compliant. The approved model was a faux colonial monstrosity in forest green. The fine was $50 per day. He tried to be reasonable. He explained that the mailbox was part of the home's architectural design, but it was like talking to a brick wall, a very condescending brick wall. The rules are the rules for a reason, she'd chirped. They maintain the aesthetic integrity of our community. He looked from her faux colonial loving face to his hyper-modern glass house and wondered what aesthetic she was talking about. To avoid a protracted battle while he was still unpacking, he relented and bought the ugly green mailbox. It was a mistake. It showed her he would yield. The violations that followed were a cascade of pettiness. His garbage bins were visible from the street for exactly 45 minutes past the designated morning pickup time. A small ornamental Japanese maple tree he planted was not on the pre-approved list of flora. He received a warning because a package was left on his porch for more than 3 hours, an eyesore. According to the letter she slid into his non-compliant turned compliant mailbox. Each infraction came with a smugly written notice and the threat of a fine. It was suburban warfare by 1,000 paper cuts. His next-door neighbor, a retired engineering professor named Harold, caught him one afternoon as he was sullenly measuring the height of his lawn with a ruler. Harold chuckled, leaning on his fence. Getting the Evelyn treatment, I see. He told Marcus she'd been running the HOA like her own personal fiefdom for a decade. She lived in one of the original, smaller ranch houses at the entrance, and Harold suspected she was pathologically jealous of anyone who moved into one of the newer, bigger places. He mentioned she'd once tried to fine a family because their visiting grandchild's birthday party had excessive balloonage, This was the woman who held sway over their slice of suburbia. Then came the big one, a lucrative, high-stakes contract in Tokyo that would require him to be overseas for a full month. It was a major opportunity he couldn't pass up, as a courtesy, and because the HOA bylaws demanded it for any absence longer than 2 weeks. He sent a formal email to the board notifying them of his travel dates. He specified he would be leaving on May 1st and returning on June 1st. He set his home's state-of-the-art security system, a network of his own design that went far beyond simple motion detectors. Every door, every window was censored. Internal and external cameras were positioned for total coverage. The smart home system logged every interaction, from the thermostat to the refrigerator. It was less a security system and more a digital ghost watching over the house. The first week in Tokyo was a blur of meetings and presentations. It wasn't until the second week that he noticed the anomalies. He was a man who thrived on data, on patterns, and the patterns in his home's data logs were wrong. A tiny alert he'd programmed for himself popped up. The thermostat in the master bedroom had been manually adjusted from its energy-saving away mode of 65°F to a comfortable 72°F. He brushed it off as a glitch. Then, 2 days later, another alert. The smart fridge, which logged its inventory via weight sensors on the shelves, registered the addition of a gallon of 2% milk, a brand of yogurt he never bought, and a bottle of cheap Chardonnay. His blood ran cold. He didn't drink cheap Chardonnay. He pulled up the live feed from his home's media server. Someone had accessed his Plex account the night before and watched 3 hours of a reality TV show about rich housewives. This was not a glitch. This was an intrusion, with a growing sense of dread. He navigated through his secure portal and accessed the internal camera feeds. His heart hammered against his ribs. There, on his living room couch, were Evelyn Harper and her meek, balding husband, Gary. She was wearing one of his expensive cashmere throws over her shoulders, sipping from one of his crystal wine glasses. Gary was channel surfing with his remote control. They were watching his 85-inch television, shoes off, feet propped up on his ottoman. It was surreal. They weren't robbing him. They were living in his house. Marcus stood frozen in his living room, the weight of the intrusion sinking deeper as the reality TV show blared on his 85-inch screen. Evelyn Harper's smug laughter echoed in his mind, but he forced it down, channeling his fury into focus. From his Tokyo hotel room, thousands of miles away, he became a digital specter, haunting his own home. His cybersecurity expertise wasn't just a job, it was his weapon. He opened his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard, pulling up every feed, every log, every sensor in his Crestwood Heights mansion. This wasn't about calling the police yet. Evelyn thought she had a free pass for 2 more weeks. Marcus would make sure she paid for every second. He dove into the data, his screen glowing with streams of information. The security system, his own design, was a masterpiece of surveillance. 16 high-definition cameras, microphones legally installed under Texas's one-party consent law, and smart devices logging every interaction. He created encrypted folders labeled with clinical precision, video evidence, audio recordings, system logs. The footage was damning. Evelyn lounged in his dining room, eating his imported truffle pasta. Gary napped in Marcus's custom leather recliner. Worst of all, Evelyn wandered into his late wife's closet, trying on her silk dresses, twirling in front of the mirror like she owned them. The sight sent a surge of anger through him. Those dresses were sacred, untouched since his wife's passing 2 years ago. But Marcus stayed cold, methodical, saving every frame. The smart home logs painted a vivid picture. The Sonos system blared Evelyn's playlist of outdated pop hits. The smart toilet, admittedly an extravagant purchase, logged their every use. The espresso machine recorded a 200-gram drop in his premium coffee beans. Most incriminating was a video from his home office, where Evelyn spent hours. In a recorded call, her voice dripped with arrogance as she bragged to a friend, "This place is wasted on that tech guy. He's off in Asia, probably too busy to notice. We're just keeping it warm for him." She laughed, a grating sound that fueled Marcus's resolve. Then came the gold mine, a heated exchange with Gary in the kitchen. "What if he comes back early?" Gary's voice trembled. Evelyn snapped back, "He won't. I've got his schedule. We'll be gone by May 31st, spotless. He'll never know." Marcus saved the file, labeled it Exhibit A Intent, and backed it up across 3 secure servers. His next move was to contact his lawyer, Lisa Nguyen, a sharp litigator with a reputation for dismantling opponents. He sent an encrypted email with a low-resolution still of Evelyn in his robe and the audio clip of her admitting her plan. The subject line read, "Urgent criminal trespass." Lisa's reply came in minutes. "Call me, now." On a secure line, her voice crackled with disbelief. "Marcus, this is next-level audacity. We've got her dead to rights. They strategized for hours." A direct police call from Tokyo risked Evelyn spinning a lie about an HOA inspection. Instead, they'd set a trap. Marcus would return early May 15th, not June 1st, catching her off guard. Lisa insisted on letting Evelyn make the first mistake. "She'll panic and dig her own grave," she said. "We just need witnesses." Marcus booked a flight, his anticipation simmering. He spent the next week in Tokyo doubling down, capturing more evidence. One clip showed Evelyn hosting a dinner party, serving his $300 bottle of bourbon to neighbors who fawned over her mansion. Another caught her mocking Marcus's taste in decor, calling his African art collection tacky and out of place in Crestwood Heights, a jab that carried a racial sting. Marcus gritted his teeth, adding the clip to his dossier. He wasn't just building a case, he was crafting a reckoning. The 12-hour flight back to Austin felt electric, not exhausting. Marcus reviewed the evidence on his laptop, each clip tightening the noose around Evelyn. Lisa's final message before he landed was clear. "Stay calm. Let her escalate. I'll handle the rest." At Austin Bergstrom International Airport, he skipped his usual car service, opting for a cab to drop him 2 blocks from Crestwood Heights. He wanted to approach on foot, unnoticed. As he passed Evelyn's modest ranch house, her polished Mercedes sat in the driveway, confirming she was at his place. A grim smile crossed his lips. The afternoon sun bathed Crestwood Heights in golden light. Sprinklers hissed. Kids played in the distance, a perfect suburban facade. Marcus pulled his suitcase, his phone discreetly recording. His mansion came into view, its glass walls glinting. Evelyn lounged on his porch chaise, wearing his late wife's kimono, sipping wine, a book in her lap. She looked like she belonged. For a moment, she didn't see him, lost in her fantasy of grandeur. Then her eyes flicked up. Confusion hit first, then recognition, then panic. Her wine glass shook, her face paling. Marcus kept his pace steady, climbing the driveway. Evelyn's fear morphed into aggression, her fatal flaw. She stood, slamming the glass down. "Who are you? This is private property." Her voice was sharp, accusatory. Marcus set his suitcase down, his tone even. "Hello, Evelyn. I live here." Her face flushed red. "That's impossible. The owner's not back for 2 weeks." The admission slipped out, a perfect confirmation of her scheme. Before Marcus could respond, she grabbed her phone, her voice rising to a shriek. "You're a trespasser. I'm calling the police." Marcus stayed silent, letting her unravel. 911. "What's your emergency?" The operator's voice crackled. I'm Evelyn Harper, HOA president at 1120 Cypress Lane. There's a man trying to break in, threatening me. Send someone now. Her performance was Oscar-worthy, dripping with fake terror. Marcus stood impassive, his phone still recording. Sirens wailed within minutes, shattering the suburban calm. Neighbors peeked from windows. Harold, his neighbor, appeared on his lawn, watching with a knowing look. Two police cruisers screeched into the driveway, lights flashing. Officer Carter, a young, eager cop, and Sergeant Lopez, a seasoned veteran with a calm demeanor, stepped out. Their hands hovered near their holsters, assessing. "Ma'am, sir, what's going on?" Lopez asked, his voice steady. Evelyn pointed at Marcus, her finger trembling. "That man's a trespasser. He's trying to rob me. Arrest him." Carter stepped toward Marcus, cautious. "Sir, keep your hands visible." Marcus raised them slowly, phone in hand. "Officers, there's a misunderstanding. This is my house." Evelyn snorted, her voice dripping with disdain. "He's lying. I'm the HOA president, responsible for this property while the owner's away. He's a danger to our community." Her title was her shield, wielded with arrogance. Marcus saw the opening. "Officers, I can prove ownership in seconds if you'll let me approach my door." Lopez nodded. Marcus walked past Evelyn's venomous glare, climbing the porch steps. The biometric lock glowed. He pressed his thumb to the panel. A soft chime sounded. The deadbolt clicked, and the door swung open. Silence fell like a hammer. Evelyn's face froze, her eyes wide with horror. Marcus turned to the officers. "While I can prove who I am, I also have evidence of who's been illegally living here, using my belongings for 17 days. A black sedan pulled up. Lisa Nguyen stepped out, her dark suit crisp, a leather briefcase in hand. She strode forward with purpose. "Sergeant Lopez," she said, shaking his hand. "I'm Lisa Nguyen, Mr. Wright's counsel. My client owns this property. He returned early from a business trip. We have reason to believe Mrs. Harper has been occupying his home unlawfully." Evelyn sputtered. "That's a lie. I was inspecting for a plumbing issue." Her excuse was flimsy, crumbling under Lisa's icy retort. "Inspections that involved sleeping in my client's bed, wearing his late wife's clothes, and hosting parties with his liquor." Lisa opened her briefcase, pulling out a tablet. "We have time-stamped video and audio proving Mrs. Harper's intent to deceive." She tapped the screen, and Evelyn's voice filled the air. "We'll be gone by May 31st, spotless. He'll never know." The officers' faces hardened. Evelyn's bravado collapsed, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Gary appeared at the door, pale and sweating. "I told her it was a bad idea," he blurted, crumbling under the pressure. Lopez stepped toward Evelyn, his tone now official. "Mrs. Harper, we need to discuss this further." The cuffs came out, their metallic click echoing in the quiet afternoon. Neighbors gasped, phones raised, recording the HOA Queen's fall. Marcus stood tall, his calm exterior hiding the storm within, ready to see this through to the end. The metallic click of the handcuffs snapped shut, and Evelyn Harper's reign as HOA Queen crumbled before the eyes of Crestwood Heights. Her face, drained of color, twisted in disbelief as Officer Carter led her to the patrol car, her shrill protests fading into whimpers. Marcus Wright stood on his porch, his suitcase still at his feet, watching the red and blue lights pulse against his glass and steel mansion. Lisa Nguyen, briefcase in hand, gave him a subtle nod. Her calm professionalism a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding. Neighbors clustered on their lawns, phones raised, capturing the downfall of the woman who'd terrorized them with fines for petty infractions. Harold, the retired professor next door, crossed his arms, a satisfied smirk breaking through his usually reserved demeanor. Sergeant Lopez turned to Marcus. "Mr. Wright, We'll need you to come to the station to file a formal statement." Marcus nodded, his voice steady. "Of course, officer. My attorney has all the evidence ready." Gary, Evelyn's husband, lingered on the porch, his bald head glistening with sweat, muttering apologies to no one in particular. "She made me do it," he repeated, his voice cracking. Marcus ignored him, his focus on the bigger picture. This wasn't just about Evelyn's trespass. It was about dismantling the toxic power she wielded, a power laced with subtle racial jabs. Her earlier comments about his tacky African art and her dismissive tone when he'd moved in. A black man in a predominantly white enclave hadn't gone unnoticed. They fueled his resolve. At the station, Marcus and Lisa laid out the case with surgical precision. Lisa projected key clips on a precinct laptop, Evelyn in his late wife's kimono, hosting parties with his bourbon, bragging about her free vacation on a recorded call. The audio of her admitting her plan to vacate by May 31st was the knockout punch. Lopez's jaw tightened as he watched. "This is felony trespass and theft," he said, scribbling notes. "She's looking at serious charges." Lisa slid a USB drive across the table. "Every log, video, and audio file is here. Time-stamped and legally obtained," Marcus added. "She targeted me because she thought I'd be an easy mark new to the neighborhood, always traveling. A black man she could push around." Lopez met his eyes, nodding. "We'll include that in the report." By evening, news of Evelyn's arrest spread like wildfire through Crestwood Heights. Social media buzzed with posts from neighbors. "She fined me $200 for a non-compliant fence, but she's living in someone's house." Another had told me my porch lights were too urban. Now she's in cuffs. The posts gained traction, some hinting at Evelyn's racial biases, like her comments about Marcus's decor not fitting the community's aesthetic. The HOA's emergency key bylaw, her tool of intrusion, became a lightning rod for outrage. Marcus saw an opportunity not just to punish Evelyn, but to upend the system that enabled her. Lisa filed a criminal complaint for felony trespass and theft, alongside a civil suit against the HOA for negligence in allowing Evelyn unchecked access to residents' keys. The next day, Marcus attended an emergency HOA meeting at the community clubhouse. The room was packed, tension thick as residents whispered about the scandal. The remaining board members, a group of timid enablers who'd cowered under Evelyn's rule, sat pale-faced at a long table. Lisa took the floor, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "Mrs. Harper abused her authority, using HOA bylaws to violate my client's home. We have grounds for a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, but Mr. Wright is open to a resolution if changes are made." Marcus stood, his presence commanding. "This isn't just about me," he said, his tone calm but firm. "It's about a bylaw that puts every home here at risk. Evelyn used it to walk into my house, wear my wife's clothes, and live my life. She mocked my heritage, called my art out of place, because I'm a black man who dared buy a house in Crestwood Heights." Gasps rippled through the crowd. He projected a still from his security footage, Evelyn serving his bourbon to guests, laughing about her temporary upgrade. Then he played the audio. "He'll never know we were here." The room erupted in murmurs. A woman in the back shouted, "She fined me for my daughter's tricycle. She's a thief." The board crumbled under the pressure. A motion to abolish the emergency key bylaw passed unanimously, met with cheers. Board members resigned en masse, their complicity exposed. Harold, pushed by neighbors' applause, agreed to run for president. Marcus declined nominations, preferring to stay the problem solver, not a politician. By week's end, Evelyn's legal fate was sealed. Faced with overwhelming evidence, her lawyer advised a guilty plea to criminal trespass and theft. She received 4 years probation, a $50,000 fine, and full restitution for every item she'd used down to the last drop of bourbon, calculated meticulously by Marcus at Ford 237.56 ounce. Evelyn and Gary sold their ranch house to cover the costs, their U-Haul vanishing under the weight of their disgrace. Marcus donated the restitution to a local charity for affordable housing, a final jab at Evelyn's obsession with status. The HOA, under Harold's leadership, adopted transparent rules, focusing on community over control. But Marcus wasn't done. He launched a campaign with Lisa to expose HOA abuses statewide, using his platform as a black CEO to highlight how racial biases often hid behind community standards. At a tech conference, he shared his story, linking Evelyn's actions to broader patterns of exclusion. "She saw a black man and assumed I wouldn't fight back," he said. "But data doesn't discriminate, and neither should our neighborhoods." Months later, Crestwood Heights felt different. The green mailbox Evelyn forced on Marcus was gone, replaced by his sleek black design. He sat on his patio, sipping the bourbon she'd pilfered, the sunset casting a warm glow over his reclaimed sanctuary. Evelyn's downfall sent ripples beyond Austin. News outlets picked up the story. HOA president arrested for living in black CEO's mansion. Other HOAs reformed, fearing similar scandals. Marcus mentored young black entrepreneurs, teaching them to wield technology and patience against systemic bias. His home, once violated, was now a symbol of resilience, a fortress not just of solitude, but of justice. Thank you for following this story. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments below. If you'd like more inspiring stories about justice and resilience, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll be back tomorrow with another must-see story you won't want to miss.